18 concrete blocks, lined up like gray tombstones right across my lake access. I counted every single one that morning, standing there with my kayak propped on my shoulder, the ramp I'd built 12 years ago, now barricaded by a row of fresh, wet cement. You ever walk outside, see something so brazen you laugh out loud? Because if you don't, you'll scream? Yeah, that happened. This wasn't an accident. This was war. And the folks who started it, Claudia Peton and her little HOA army, figured I'd just roll over, take my fines, and quietly vanish. But they didn't know who they were messing with. I'd spent 35 years as a university librarian. If there's one thing we know how to do, it's research. And nobody out-researches a pissed-off librarian with nothing left to lose. The blocks weren't random. They were massive, each about 16 inches on a side, perfectly staggered, tight enough you couldn't squeeze a lawnmower through, let alone a kayak. Someone measured this out, planned every angle, and spent a couple grand making damn sure I couldn't reach the water. The morning air reeked of concrete and wet grass, and there were fresh drag marks in the dew. No question, this happened overnight. I started snapping photos, every angle, every measurement. Timestamp, 7:23 a.m., September 16th. I got close-ups of the wet cement, wide shots of the whole ugly blockade, and detailed frames showing exactly how the block sat smack on my easement. Not community land, not shared space, but my legally documented 12-foot wide corridor right to the lake's edge. I could recite that legal description from memory after all these years, and I'd be damned if I was going to let a handful of HOA heroes erase it with a load of concrete. See, Claudia had been dropping hints for months. We're updating lake access standards. We'll be reviewing all structures for compliance. Every community meeting, same dance, her fake smile routine. While I nodded and sipped bad coffee, I thought the new rules would grandfather in my ramp since it had been permitted and built back in 2011, signed off by the county engineer himself. Turns out, Claudia wasn't interested in grandfathering. She was interested in control. And apparently, I was the test case. So I stomped back up to my porch, dropped the kayak, and headed straight for my study. Now, my study isn't what you'd call cozy. It's more like a bunker, walls lined with binders, cabinets, shelves stacked floor to ceiling, every document labeled, dated, and filed. I pulled out the green binder, Property Docs 2010 to 2012, flipped to the Lake Access Permit tab, and there it was, county approval, official seal, everything in order. That ramp was as legal as my own. Front door. I dialed Claudia, HOA president, queen of the block. She answered on the second ring with that syrupy professional voice. Warren, what can I do for you? I kept it cool. Claudia, about the concrete block someone dropped on my access. Care to explain? There was a pause, just long enough to know she was scrambling. Then, oh, the board decided last night, per our updated covenants, all lakefront structures require approval. Your ramp was never submitted for review. My jaw clenched, but my tone stayed level. Claudia, I built that ramp in 2011, with a county permit. The covenants you're citing didn't exist until 2019. She shot back. That's not relevant. The current rules apply to all structures. If you don't comply, we'll have to assess fines, $500 a month, until you remove the ramp or get proper approval. I could almost hear her smile through the phone. And the blocks. Who authorized those? She got chilly. The board has authority to prevent violations. Those blocks are on common property. I almost laughed, almost. Claudia, those blocks are on my easement. Look at the survey map. Another pause, longer this time. The board will review your concerns at the next meeting. In the meantime, the blocks stay, and fines start if you don't submit a removal plan within 10 days. She hung up before I could get another word in. That's when I knew she was out to win by any means. But she had no idea how much evidence I'd already collected. Because here's the thing about people like Claudia, they're great at spinning stories, making noise, getting folks riled up online. But facts, actual documented facts, not their strong suit. Monday, the certified letter arrived. 3 pages of legalese, full of threats. Unauthorized structure, escalating fines, more penalties if I didn't comply. What it didn't mention was my county permit, or the fact that their rules weren't retroactive. It was a scare tactic. Pure and simple. I'd spent years teaching students to separate real authority from the appearance of it. This letter had plenty of appearance, but no foundation. Then Claudia launched her social media blitz. By lunchtime Tuesday, my phone was blowing up, neighbors texting screenshots of a post calling out a resident for unauthorized lakefront construction, environmental damage, and selfishness. No name, but everyone knew who she meant. The comments poured in. People I'd smiled at for years suddenly turning on me. My property values are going to tank. That ramp is an eyesore. If he can break the rules, why can't everyone? You get the picture. It hit harder than I care to admit. Running into neighbors at the store, people I'd known for years, now avoiding me. Looking the other way. Claudia's narrative was working. She'd made me the villain. Thursday, I waved at Everett, retired Marine, always up for a chat about weather or football. He kept walking. Wouldn't meet my eyes. That stung more than any fine. Friday, Claudia got bolder, sent a direct email, threatening legal action, tens of thousands in costs, blaming me for dragging the whole community into a mess. She attached the 2019 CCRs, highlighted the new lake access rules, probably figured I'd just fold. But reading those rules, I saw what she'd missed. The ramp wasn't visible from common areas, wasn't covered by her precious clause. The law was vague, but not vague enough. I drafted a brief response. Claudia, I've received the HOA's notice. I'll review all documents and respond within the time frame allowed by law. No emotion, no facts tipped. Just process, let her stew. Then I opened my laptop and started building the master file. Photos, permits, deed copies. A complete timeline, every bit of correspondence with the county. Librarian mode, full throttle. What Claudia didn't know, what nobody knew, was that back in April, I'd heard rumblings about new restrictions and quietly applied to renew my permit. The upgraded permit, once finalized, trumped anything the HOA could throw at me. I'd kept that ace close to the vest. The next week, county officials came out, Grace Thornton, deputy engineer, and Boyd, the inspector. They measured, photographed, reviewed every document. Grace ran her hand along the ramp. You built this yourself? Followed the Army Corps manual to the letter, I told her. She nodded, impressed. Boyd measured every block, 2.3 feet inside my easement. This is clear-cut trespass, Grace said. Eyes narrowed at the blocks. She issued my new permit on the spot. 20 years of protection, county authority, trumps all HOA rules. As for the blocks, she added, they're an illegal obstruction. HOA owes $250 a day in penalties, retroactive to the day they appeared. I did the math, nearly $7,000 and counting. That evening, I assembled an evidence binder, sent a certified letter to the HOA, removed the blocks within 48 hours or face county enforcement. I knew Claudia would push back. She called, angry, defiant, claiming I was threatening the whole community. I kept calm. I'm enforcing my legal rights under state law. You should have checked before dumping concrete on my land. She tried to negotiate. Let's make a deal. Remove the ramp. We refund the fines. Clean slate. I told her to read the permit and the inspection report. You've got 48 hours. Then I called the county. Her tone went icy, accusing me of being selfish, stubborn, making myself an enemy of the community for a little kayak. I let her rant, then ended the call. Facts don't negotiate, Claudia. Wednesday morning, county officials returned, this time with a sheriff's deputy and 30 neighbors in tow. Grace addressed the crowd, explained the law. County permits supersede HOA rules when it comes to repairing infrastructure. Boyd's GPS measurements proved the blocks were on my property. Grace handed Claudia a cease and desist order, 72 hours to remove the blocks, or the county would handle it and send the bill. The crowd turned on the board. People demanded answers. How much did the blocks cost? Why didn't they check for permits? Claudia couldn't answer. The Marine from down the street called her out. By the end of the week, the blocks were gone, hauled away by county contractors while I watched from my porch, finally able to breathe easy for the first time in weeks. At the next HOA meeting, the community demanded accountability. Residents questioned every decision, tore into the board's excuses, called for a vote of no confidence. Claudia was removed as president, over 90 votes to boot her out. Lorraine, the neighbor who'd avoided me at the store, was elected interim president. Her first motion, every future enforcement action required legal review and acknowledgement of county and state authority. It passed, unanimous. A week later, Lorraine showed up at my door with a pie, still warm, cinnamon and apology baked right in. "We believed what looked like authority," she said. "But you proved documentation matters more." We sat on my porch, watched the sun set over the lake. Mine again, unobstructed, peaceful. Sunday morning, I launched my kayak for the first time in 43 days. Cold water, clear sky. The ramp solid under my feet. Vindicated, not just by paperwork, but by the process. The system's slow, imperfect, sometimes unfair, but when you document every step, when you build a case on facts, it works. And that's the real lesson, isn't it? Power only works if people let it go unchecked. Authority's just noise without real foundation. So here's my question. Would you have the patience to build a case this carefully, even when everyone around you thinks you're wrong? Do you trust the system enough to see it through? Or would you fold under the pressure of social media mobs and HOA bullies? Drop your thoughts below. Tell me where you stand on justice, property rights, and standing up for what's yours, even when it costs you. Maybe you've got your own story. Let's hear it. Because in the end, facts outlast spin. Documentation beats rhetoric. And sometimes, the quiet work done in a study full of binders can change a whole community.